Have you ever seen a unit hit for literally 1 damage? Neither have I, until now. The Fire Hollyberry cookie was the first monster of the collab to be shown off by the devs at the Las Vegas meetup, but now that the collab is officially upon us, I figured it'd be the perfect time for a How to Rune video. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off with the skills. I was trying to combine the word skill and shield, and it came out as Skill 1 is Shield Bash. This one's going to try to provoke the enemy for 1 turn on a coin flip, though that chance does admittedly get better with skill ups. The damage for that also scales proportionately with the defense, and that's great. That is highly synergistic. Stay tuned for why that is. Although you probably already know why that is because we've talked about it a couple times. Her second skill applies a 3-turn hug on the ally with the lowest HP ratio. Then it's going to try to stun the target of your choice on the enemy team. And just like her first skill, this one's damage also scales with her defense. But her third skill, Hollyberry Shield, is really why everybody's talking about her to begin with. It's going to decrease the damage that your allies take by 200% of her defense. That is exactly the inverse of Dominic, if that makes sense. Where Dominic deals 200% of his attack power as damage, she negates damage equal to 200% of her defense. That sounds like it makes sense. That makes perfect sense to me. And she will continue negating that much damage until her next turn. And during that time, she'll also become immune to crowd control effects, kind of like how she is in the source material. With this skill up, she can make the enemy hit for 1 damage. Literally 1 point of damage, which is the absolute minimum that is possible in Summoner's War. So for all intents and purposes, 1 is 0. Except in certain niche circumstances. So the more defense you have, the less damage your team takes. And it gets even easier to stack on defense when you consider that she has a leader skill that increases fire monsters' defense by 50%. So let's move on to runes. As far as sets go, the answer is really just not violent. Her third skill's effect is a stance that lasts until her next turn, so the last thing you want to do is activate that third skill and then proc out of it immediately. But here are some valuable offsets to think about. First of all, we got Revenge, because the effect on her skill 1 is extremely valuable, plus if her third skill's up, she's immune to crowd control. You'll also want to think about Will, because if you don't get turn 1, you want to make it at least a little bit harder for the enemy, make them burn a couple skills in order to deny her that third skill. And lastly, there's Guard to help increase your defense. I mean, this one's obvious, but frankly, it should be mentioned here. So now let's get into everybody's favorite part of the video where we talk about her primary and secondary stats for you to focus on. For her primary stats, you're going to want to obviously focus on defense. Her whole kit revolves around defense. Her second primary stat to focus on is going to be speed. Where the Fire Hollyberry cookie finds her home is as an anti-cleave monster. So you're going to get the most mileage out of her when you are denying your enemy's turn 1 plans. Let's move on to secondary stats. First on the list is going to be HP. Whenever a monster calls for a lot of defense, it becomes easy to forget about HP. What happens when a monster gets defense broken? You start relying on that HP pool instead of damage mitigation, so you can't slack on your health. Next is going to be accuracy because so much of her kit revolves on landing debuffs, such as stun, provoke, and you don't want to get resisted by the mimic like she did in Las Vegas.
He resisted the stun. 100% res treasure chest, dude. The mimics, they finally won.
And lastly, there's resistance. Because even though you're immune to crowd control, you are by no means immune to defense break. That's going to be where Hollyberry Cookie is going to meet her demise most frequently because she negates damage by 200% of her current defense. So if her defense is lowered by a defense break, then you're gonna have a bad time. And they are definitely going to hit for more than 1 HP, I'll tell you that. So when runing, you may want to go speed, defense, defense on your 2, 4, and 6 slots, and then for artifacts, you'll want to round out as much accuracy as possible, maybe even use that as a time to fill in some HP if you find that you're lacking it in substats. So again, look for accuracy there, or maybe even some damage reduction. The Fire Hollyberry cookie is a really nice surprise as far as anti-cleave units go for this collab. If you don't like the look of what your enemy's bringing, you can draft her, make her super fast, and then deny the AoE team wipe that they're threatening. Or presenting. Once you ruin her up, she'll be ready to go and defend your team. Just make sure to pair her with something like an immunity option or something to deny a defense break. But what do you guys think about the Hollyberry cookie? Do you guys like the fire version a lot? Do you have other favorites from the collab? Let me know what you think and stay tuned to the channel because I'm going to be doing a few more of these since we're surrounded by cookies all of a sudden. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll see you next time.